Good morning everyone, welcome to my weekly outlook, or should I say rest of the week outlook. I know it's Thursday, but it was a unique week, NFP week, so Monday, Tuesday and obviously Wednesday weren't great days anyway, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, which we'll get into. But anyway, let's have a look at what's good for the rest of the week and even some projections, further forward. Right, so let's start here on the monthly. Let me just quickly expand into the wider price action for a moment. Of course, we have our current dealing range, okay, which is from this low here to this high here, right? So that's our bullish dealing range that we have. Now, of course, price has ran into some resistance, which is in the form of this order block with imbalance, right? So price took the buy side liquidity above previous highs here, rejected this bearish POI and PDA zone, right, and closed out below. So now we're into the month of February, and there's two options for price. So if you look to the right here, what we'll say is from the monthly perspective, price can go either way. We're respecting either the bearish PDAs and we'll seek out some discount draw on liquidities, right, with the discount down towards this zone here, or we'll seek further buy side liquidity at these weak highs. Right, so they're weak highs because we have a high and a lower high right next to it in that formation. So it's low resistance buy side liquidity. Now price is still bullish, as we can see the last 3 months has closed out bullish candles. I'm slightly favoring price to continue higher just because we look good from this current monthly candle for expansion, right? So why I say that is because price opened up here. We had that retrace into the previous monthly candle, which is usually price seeking out some sort of POI there. So it's retraced into here on the higher time frame. So on a lower time frame somewhere, we'll have found some support here, some sort of bullish PDA, and now you can see prices expanded upward. So at the moment, we're currently a bullish candle. We're the first week in, so it's possible now that price will continue expanding after that retrace in the first week of February, and then now it's ready to expand towards the highs, possibly looking for buy side liquidity. So I was just quickly noting that there's no guarantee. However, it does look good that price opened up, retraced, and now be ready to form more of a bullish candle from there. All right, so let's move on to the weekly. Let's see how that looks for our buyers. All right, so in terms of the weekly, we're still quite bullish, right, with our bullish structures. Price clearly rejected this zone here. We had a nice bullish expansion. This is where price then continued into the next week, taking that previous buy side liquidity into those bearish PDAs that you could see on the monthly, and this is the weekly imbalance here, and rejected as a nice high test. We left behind a bullish imbalance here and order block, right? So price then last week pulled back down, like I said on that monthly candle, has pulled back down into the previous range, right, into that January range. And you can see we've mitigated the order block just slightly, but mitigated the order block and to about 50% of this bullish imbalance here as well. Price then rejected that, closed out with a wick. Okay, this week we started to expand. Right, we've pulled down a little bit, we've started to expand. We'll see on the daily. We've taken the buy side liquidity above this previous week, so it's no surprise we have pulled back a little bit. But so far so good. It looks to be we are going to create some sort of higher low here, right? Again, not guaranteed, but we've got bullish order flow, respecting bullish order block here, creating a new high, pulling back, respecting bullish order block and imbalance here, right? So for the last couple of days, which is today and tomorrow of this week, I am still looking for possible bullish expansions, ultimately with this week's high being our next buy side liquidity high, right? Clear buy side liquidity, external high from our weekly dealing range, okay? Because we pull back into that discount and now we may look to take this external buy side liquidity here. All right, so I think that is clear. We'll see the daily, we'll get a better picture as well, whether to see if they agree for the rest of this week. So let's go down to the daily. All right, so in terms of the daily, I think we look good so far to agree with the bullish bias from the weekly. This is the weekly candle forming here, by the way, if you didn't know. Of course, we have the same dealing range as on the weekly, right, from this low to this high. Price has pulled back to this discount, which I've laid out here. We've mitigated that weekly order block here and to about 50% of that imbalance, as we saw. We also got the daily overlapping imbalance as well. And before this small expansion here, we took sell side liquidity and then expanded, right? So let's go more into this price action. We of course had this bearish imbalance above here. Price mitigated that, went further down, took the sell side liquidity. We then broke above it. So as we know, right, these imbalances can be now inverted, right? So what was a bearish imbalance can now become a bullish imbalance, right? So price has now retested that yesterday and rejected there, closed out with this wick here. As this line shows here, this is what I've been looking for this week. Price to break above and come back down, retest it, and then look to go higher. So this may be our new support, our new bullish PDA here on the daily, right? So to continue following that daily order flow. We also had this bearish PDA above. Price did close out above it. That didn't cause much of a reaction, but we've closed out above it. Price then retraced, as we've seen here, and used this as support so far. Of course, we have overlapping imbalances here, which we could also drag across because it's also a BPR, right? Which is great for us, okay? So price has expanded, pulled back, possibly to use this inverse fair value gap here, this inverse imbalance, to then continue to follow this market maker buy model, right? Ultimately target up here, but probably these highs here to target for the rest of the week. So in the long term, this is what I'm looking for on a daily, just price to keep respecting bullish imbalances, right? And create strong order flow up towards these highs and then eventually those low resistance highs, right? So the higher time frame monthly, as I said, could go either way. The weekly is still following that bullish order flow. And the daily, of course, we have more bullish order flow to be expected here from our bullish PDAs, right? Inverse fair value gap here. And of course, we have the obvious imbalance here, which we created this week as well, which so far price is also respecting that midline, that 50% of this imbalance, right? That we can expect to possibly go higher now towards these highs following this sort of price action, right? So that is the higher time frame outlook, and I think the daily and weekly supports it. For today, of course, we don't have any bullish price action so far to confirm this zone is going to be respected. So a nice bullish close would actually set us up very well for Friday and possibly into the new week for a bullish bias, right, to continue higher. So let's go down to the lower time frames and let's see what they look like. So here we're on the 4 hour. You may be able to see the market maker buy model a bit more clearer here. We have our sell side curve here where we pulled back down to that daily imbalance zone here and obviously weekly imbalance zone, right? We had our 4 hour imbalance as well here with order block. Price mitigated the 4 hour imbalance, took sell side liquidity at the lows here before expanding into that new dealing range, right? From this low to these highs up here, right? So that's why I've drawn out that discount here, okay? So we have a strong low here because we took sell side liquidity before breaking out, creating our new structure there. This is that daily imbalance, as you can see, where that midline is being respected. I'm going to remove that for now. Right, we have prices pulled back yesterday into our overlapping inverse fair value gap. We have one here also on the 4 hour, 1 hour, and this is where the daily inverted fair value gap is as well. So you can see where it's been respected previously, and then now during NFP this was also respected, right, and possibly will be support here. And then the same as on the daily where we had that bullish imbalance created when we expanded higher. We also have it again here on the 4 hour, right? So this is a good zone here for bullish continuations from, right, to create our buy side curve here as we saw on the daily with that action that I was creating, right, for us to eventually target the highs here. Right, so that's what I'm expecting. We do have a bearish PDA zone here. We have this order block with imbalance, which was formed during NFP, right, with bearish SMC. So this, I expect a reaction around this zone here. So any trades trading into this zone, I'll be cautious of, right, going long while we're already within this zone, because I do expect some reaction. What would be best case scenario is we eventually breach through that zone, maybe a strong close above it, come back down into it again to use it as an inverse imbalance, right, to then continue higher. So that would be the best case scenario for this here, whether we go above those highs and come back down or we don't. We see some support being formed through this zone here, and obviously it's a BPR as well. So I think that's enough for the 4 hour. Let's go down to the 1 hour. Any questions, just let me know. So now we're into the 1 hour price action. Just going to remove this 4 hour imbalance from the time frame, because we also have an overlapping 1 hour one as well, right? Just to make that clear, this is that inverse fair value gap from the higher time frame. And then now we've got our overlapping 1 hour, same as we did on the 4 hour. So a good confluence zone. You can see why NFP respected that zone here. Nice quick pullback down to that discount, to that obvious imbalance down there. So this is the NFP candle. And just as you can see, NFP week, which is why I wasn't making videos or online, you can see that day before NFP, we just went sideways. NFP, nothing during London till the announcement really. Then you had this large candle wick here, and then price died out again, right? And Monday, of course, price just opened up and expanded. Nothing happened. Okay, so this is what we're currently dealing with. We have a nice bullish PDA zone down here, which price has already mitigated, but of course now we've opened up into London just about now. We may come down for further sell side liquidity, maybe this pre-London low. We'll see that closer on the M15. Right, so in the short term, this previous daily high would be a main target for longs, but of course, if I could, I would take any profits before this zone here as well, or most of them, and be break even, right? Once we break through this zone here, price would look better. So on the 1 hour at the moment, price action's bearish, I guess, because we have broken down. There is no bullish order flow just yet, but we have respected our bullish PDAs, right? So we'll be waiting for the M15 or something, right, for the next day, like today and tomorrow, to push and put some bullish order flow back into the market, so we can go with our bias from the higher time frames, which is to go long, right, from the daily. Right, so let's go down to the M15. We'll look to see what could form for today. Alright, so M15 price action. Not much has happened this morning since we've opened. This is all pre-London. We have come into the London open kill zone now. Like I said, price is bearish at the moment. Nothing to show any bullish order flow, but the daily, of course, does look to support a bullish idea and a bullish bias. Now, I don't know if price will come as low as to come for this previous day NFP candle low. At the moment, we have taken out the Asia range low sell side liquidity, but this pre-London open low here I'm not confident in. So what would probably be best is if price pulls back down, takes out that low for sell side liquidity and possibly this low here, and then we get that bullish push, and then we can start looking for those bullish imbalances, order blocks and whatnot to reject again after creating this strong low, taking some sell side liquidity to then target towards this Asia range high and this imbalance here. Ultimately, of course, also the previous daily high, but I think I would be cautious. If I could get into a trade earlier than that, I would take my profits around these zones here, just because we may have quite a larger reaction from this zone here pulling back. So we'll see what happens there, but this is probably the sort of formation I'll be looking for on the M15, right? This low here is very sus at the moment because it was done around that 1:30 time. I expect London to probably take out this low again here, but that's what I'll be looking for today. Some longs once we've established some sort of bullish order flow, maybe even a second retest on the M15, right? Another structural high for us to come from. So we'll see how that looks. So back here on the daily, just to remember the larger vision for the rest of the week. Of course, the daily is still in bullish structure, right? We've broken above these bearish PDAs here and look to be retesting as possible support, right? As possible bullish PDAs now. They've been inverted. Price today has opened up here. We have retraced into that previous daily candle, looking for support, which we have found. So this candle here may look good now for the rest of the day to possibly expand higher and turn into a bullish candle from there. So I hope that was clear. Any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week.